And that was the first time that I really understood this gua, the fire gua. And the fire gua is made from a yang line, a yin line, and a yang line, which means energy, substance, energy. That's another way of saying it. Now seeing this, and I could see the gua. I could see it in this log that was burning in front of my eyes.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. I came across a meme on the internet the other day. At first, I thought it was funny, and more than a little snarky. Later, I saw the clinical gem that was embedded in it. It went like this: you gotta respect everybody's beliefs. Actually, no you don't. That is what gets us in trouble. You have to acknowledge everyone's beliefs. Then, reserve the right to say, that's flippin' stupid. Are you kidding me? I suspect your snarky side also thinks that this is funny. And true as well. I'll let you fill in the blanks on just what flippin' stupid is for you. We all got some kind of something we just shake our heads at and say, yeah, nope. For those of us who hold being inclusive as a value, and I'm one of those folks, I lean towards wanting to respect other people, up until they cross a certain line. Spew xenophobic hatred? I'm not going to be standing by your side. Suggest that women are inferior? You'll get active resistance from me. Think capitalism is the worst thing ever to come along? Hard for me to agree. I like having a private practice where I can generate a livelihood doing something I like and in the way that I like to do it. There are plenty of bad ideas in the world. They don't deserve our respect, but they do require our acknowledgement. Acknowledging does not at all mean that you agree. It means that you recognize. It means you've got the empathy and cognitive capacity to understand how another person sees the world. And this is important. It's important, first of all, because you want to know who the dangerous people are. If someone expresses hatred toward you in a gender, racial, or class-oriented way, you probably want to acknowledge that and then keep yourself from harm's way. In clinic, we have patients who have all kinds of erroneous ideas about what healthy is, what's the best way to proceed in terms of their lifestyle, or the problematic actions that come from their beliefs that are adding a burden to their already compromised health. Otherwise, they would have not walked through your door. In our clinical work, it's vitally important to have the capacity to be empathetic, to be able to understand how others feel, think, and believe. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with them, nor does it mean that we have to respect them. But they're here for our help, so we do have to acknowledge how things are for them. And you can do that without being confrontational or disagreeable. As to being inclusive, well, I like the idea of a world with a diversity of opinion and lifestyle. That is part of what makes foreign travel so interesting and fun, too. It's part of what keeps me from getting stuck in old and limiting ideas. I thrive on the enzymatic experience of how differences make life more interesting and more interconnected. At the same time, there are limits, and having the rubric of respect versus acknowledgement, I find it helpful, because I can acknowledge without stirring up the fires of conflict. I can get more information about a situation that might be potentially dangerous, and I can stand in my beliefs without demanding that others change theirs. It's a helpful way to practice empathy, which we need every day in our clinical work. Understanding and acknowledging how things are is a terrific starting point. It's a way that led Ilan Migdali to not just understanding how health insurance worked in California, but opened up a path for him to create an insurance network that specifically aimed at helping acupuncturists to thrive. I'm not sure what it is that allows some people to see opportunity and create something useful where everyone else is just seeing troubles and roadblocks. Perhaps because many opportunities don't have an easy way forward. They ask us to roll up our sleeves, do some work, and somehow keep heart and spirit together in the face of uncertainty. Beyond the creative and practical work Ilan has done with insurance, he's also a student of the balance method, and in particular, looking at the jing and how the transformations of the gua can be stimulated within the body using particular acupuncture points. I always hope that when I speak with people like Ilan, a bit of their broad perspective might wear off on me. Maybe it will broaden your perspective as well. We'll find out after a word from the people that you can thank for making Qiological possible. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. It's Women's Health Month at Mayway Herbs. Check out their new website for learning resources on helping women with herbal medicine. Are you a creature of habit? How about making a change that helps your patients and the planet with AcuFast needles? And later in the show, raising your fees doesn't have to be a difficult process. Jane has helpful suggestions on making it easy and effective. And finally, have you considered that having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things that you can do? Julie Bear Don't Walk has, and she can help you do something about it too. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Mayway Herbs. May is Women's Health Month, and as a women-owned and women-run business, we especially love how Chinese medicine can support wellness through every stage of a woman's life. So in this month's newsletter and podcast, we're covering topics like PMS, pregnancy, menopause, and osteoporosis. We'll share expert insights and effective treatment strategies you can put to good use in your clinic. Our Plumflower brand line includes herbal tea pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, all of which you can find on Mayway.com. And where you can also find articles, videos, and other resources to support your practice. Since 1969, Mayway has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. In these challenging times, please know that we remain committed to keeping our products accessible and affordable so you can take care of yourself and your patients. As always, thank you for supporting Real Chinese Medicine.
Daily habits and routines feel comforting, familiar, easy, automatic. That's the power of repetition. You've worked out the kinks and can do it with your eyes closed. But what if you shook things up? What if you ditched the old routine and tried something new? Hi, I'm John Sten. I've practiced acupuncture for over 30 years, and together with my wife Kelly, we created the world's first eco-friendly acupuncture needle. The AcuFast earth-friendly needle system cuts your packaging waste by 60 to 90%, depending upon your needle type, speeds up your needling, gives you more control, and best of all, while you're healing patients, we plant a tree for every 2 boxes your clinic uses. Thousands of acupuncturists have already made the switch. In just the last year, they've helped plant over 16,000 trees. Since we started, that number has grown to over 50,000. So break the routine. Be the change. Visit acufastneedles.com. Your patients and the planet will thank you.
Ilan Migdali, welcome to Qiological.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Michael.
I am happy to talk with you. We were introduced to each other by, I can't even remember at this point, was it Ephraim Korngold who introduced us?
A person that his name says everything about him. Gold. Rick.
Rick Gold. That's right. That's right. It's been great. You know, it was wonderful meeting Rick Gold because Rick Gold has put me in touch with everybody. The guy could be like a professional matchmaker.
I agree. And he does it with such a smile and a big heart that it's a delight.
Really big heart.
I first met Rick in India. We have a common friend that is a musician and a very, very good friend of mine. And he organized tours, music tours. And the first one was in Morocco. And for an Israeli to be in Morocco was a complete... I lived in the States during that time, so I flew with my American passport. But it was a delight to be there. I continued traveling with him to several other countries to play music in those countries. And then one visit was to India. So I met Rick on this tour. I missed my flight from LA to India because I forgot the day difference. I flew from LA to Istanbul and from Istanbul to Turkey, and I forgot I'm missing a day. So my visa to India was, I missed it by 1 day. So I had to stay here, do the visa again, lost 2 or 3 days of the tour. And I joined them. It was an incredibly funny and appropriate story.
It's wild, isn't it, how international travel will really make you attend to things that you wouldn't otherwise be attending to, like dates, times, visas. But you just said that there was something about all this that was, I don't remember the exact word you said, but there was something very right about it.
You know, it happened to be a weekend that everything was, it was February. I think it was around Valentine's Day. So there's a big holiday here in the States, not Valentine, but the day before. I don't remember which one, but the embassies were closed because of that. So I got stuck, but it was wonderful. A friend took me to the airport. I'm there to come back in 3 weeks, and a few hours later, I'm knocking on his door, and I'm saying, I'm back. And so we went and had a nice big Indian meal, all of us, and I stayed 2 days with them. And I got guys that organized this tour had to arrange for flight for me with a special, a tiny little jet to an army base not far from where this tour was already touring the northern part of India. When I got on the bus after like 2 or 3 crazy days, everybody was clapping, and that's how I met Rick. And then I found out that his wife, Nina, is a friend of my sister, which I never knew either. So it was just perfect.
It's funny how paths can really intertwine themselves in spectacular ways, and how sometimes those long ways around, the detours or the, problems, so to speak, just opens up all kinds of other opportunities.
There's all those books about 6 degrees of separation, et cetera, and I very much believe so. I think that we have so much in common that, and this I think is one of the base for the medicine as well.
Tell me more about that.
I think we all start from the same place. You wanted to talk to me about acupuncture, and then I told you about the guas and the seasonal balancing. And, it all comes, I don't know if you got a chance to look at those exograms, but they all start from the same, there's that the yin and yang. So we all have something similar, and then we all develop so beautifully, differently. But there's something similar and something common, and that's why, I could have a practice in Israel, very successful, and have a very successful practice here. I can talk to somebody about this, and then I can enjoy this music or that music, because there's something, if I can remember the base things, then we have something to connect, and it's very intimate connection could be. And that, you develop, you grow. If it's your name is Ilan like mine, and you grow leaves that are green, and then they're green, and some are red, and but it's not the outside, it's the inside that is so close. That's what I meant.
I have looked in the book. You were very kind to send me a copy of The Perfect Seasons. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. I want to talk to you about the guas here in just a moment. We're going to come back to that. But you just said something about you lived in Israel and you had the capacity to have a successful practice. And you live here in the United States. You also have been able to create a successful practice. So, I mean, this raises a question in my mind. It's like when people say, well, that's a great job. They make good money. Often in my mind, I'm thinking good money. Like, well, what does good money mean to you? How do you know that it's good money? Like, what is good money? In the same way, what would you say goes into a successful practice? What makes a practice successful? And I'm not just talking about like how you market it, but like the heart of it.
I think you answered it by your question, by what you just said, the heart of it. I'm sorry I don't mean to not to answer you. I just wanted to admire how beautiful this thing is evolving. But I think it's the heart of it. It's where your heart is. It's not that, you can sit under the tree and say, oh, my heart is so open, and here the patient just line up in front of you. It's you have to do the right things. You have to do the things. But I will answer you a little different, or I'll expand your question. And I'll answer you by saying not only successful, but enjoyable practice. Because I've been practicing now nearly 40 years. Sit well when you hear this, because I never had one day that I did not like working. And to say this about any job is very, very rare to hear. And I say this, with I mean every syllable of that. I have not dread going to work any day. I love my work after 40 years. So what makes it successful? You have lots of people in your program that say how to make it. I just listened to an old interview that you had with another woman that lives in Israel now. It's from about a year or 2 years ago. And she's a marketing person, not an acupuncturist. And she was very, very good. First of all, she is a beautiful interviewee. She knows how to be interviewed, and she knows how to, I can't remember her name. You probably know who I'm talking about. But she was very, very comfortable and powerful explaining how to make good practice. But I don't have anything to add to that. The only thing I want to add is the heart part. And that's for you, for the practitioner. Because, money comes, money goes. But what stays with you is your heart. And that's, more valuable, in my opinion.
Well, it is. And I know for myself, I mean, look, I've got an established practice at this point, so I'm grateful. There was that period of time that everybody goes through where you're developing your practice. You don't even quite know what your practice is going to be yet. In fact, for me, it's like I'm still figuring out who am I and who am I as a practitioner? What am I doing? What kind of people do I want to work with? There's a lot of questions that get entertained along the way. And there's something about like keeping the faith that even if you don't know what to do in this moment, if you keep moving forward, it will work itself out.
Yeah, trust.
Yes, there is definitely trust. And you develop trust, right? And the longer you do it and the longer it goes, of course, the more trust you'll have because you've got experience. There's that. But yeah, that aspect of heart, and I think especially too when, at least for me, when sitting with people and the difficulties that they're having, and being able to sit with them in a way where I can be present but not over-involved. Just, present, but not in their business, so to speak. Let the acupuncture do the work. That piece about heart in practice, and I think a lot of people can resonate with that. Look, a lot of the folks, I think it's hard to imagine anybody coming into this trade, coming into this work, and not having some kind of genuine heartfelt interest in being helpful to people. It's hard to imagine, like, how could you get through acupuncture school alone if you didn't have that? And certainly the first 5 years of practice, I think, would be hard to get through if you didn't have your heart in it.
It makes it much more enjoyable.
Well, we're back to that, yes.
I'm part of the team, so I'll say, yes, that's correct. But I know many people that, are fluctuating between staying, not staying in the profession. And when you fluctuate, you start having less fun and less love and less heart. And some people, I know people that are second generation acupuncturists, that their parents pushed them to the practice, not that they always, I didn't want to, I'm sorry again, to rain on your parade. It is a profession like all professions. I can be like the old people and say, when I started 40 years ago, it was a little different. All of us were either ex-hippies or older people that it was their second or third career. It was new. Everything was new in the early 80s. So now that people choose to go to this, the average age was, 35, 40. Now the average age may be 20, 25. I think that when you went to school, it was also like that. The average age was 30, 35. Yeah, so it was a second career looking at you, I figure out it's your second career.
Yeah, third. So what took you into acupuncture in the first place?
Massage. I came to the States in 82, straight after the Lebanon War. I was a soldier. I was called as a reservist to that war. I was in the 73 war as a paratrooper. In regular, I was 19 then. But then this war ended. I joined the family business in the clothes. That's also my second career, the acupuncture. I joined a family business that my father started for his father from Argentina in the clothing, different needles, and I developed it to a very large company that did a lot of export. I joke and I say when I was 25, I made more money than I was 55, but I enjoyed it much less. It was very stressful, and being in Israel with the devaluation of the currency, and I did a lot of export, so you could work a lot, and make little money, or it was very stressful. So I came in 82 here, straight after the Lebanon War. I had a leave. They said, go home, rest. You're coming to go into Beirut. I said, sayonara, and I hopped on a plane and flew to LA. And I had a friend that lived here. He came with wife number one, and she wanted to go back to Israel a few months later to continue her education in a university. And I decided to stay. And we drove a lot doing sightseeing. And I went to a chiropractor because my back was bothering me, and I got a little massage there. And I loved the experience. And I looked around, and there was a massage school not far from where I was, and I joined their class. And I'm from Israel. I was born in the early 50s, so very, much more conservative, etc., etc. You hear those people walking around me naked, and but it was a connection to intimacy, but not sexual. And I was delighted that I had this opportunity to not only take off my clothes, but take off a lot of other separations I had from me and the world. I guess you call it armors. And it touched on psychology, and then I loved it, and I stayed, and I became an assistant there, and I studied more. And then I got a job in a chiropractor's office, mostly to vacuum and clean the office and prepare it. And then they heard I was a massage therapist. They referred patients to me. And, the little massage you give the patient before the chiropractic adjustment. And I would get paid by the treatment. And many times I did not get paid at all. I said, what's going on? They said, oh, we never got paid for the insurance. I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, we don't know. We didn't get paid. And I, being this nosy Israeli, I said, how does it work? And they said, well, there is this and this. And I started calling and realized that the insurance paid the patient. So I said, call the patient, get the money. And they got the money and they paid me. Then they said, you're pretty good in that. Would you look into our account as well? And then I learned from, the ground up about deductibles and about covered diagnoses and about assignments and about all this. So by the time, a few years later, I had 3 offices that I was helping in their billing while I was going to acupuncture school. They just opened the Emperor's. I'm talking about 1983. They just opened Emperor's. And I got to Emperor's. The sign of Emperor, by the way, is 8 and 3. The syllables 8 and 3. That's a beautiful sign, but it just signifies when they opened it. That's when Dr. Kim opened the school. I joined the first class in the middle, and they said, it's the middle of the semester. And I said, well, I'm pretty smart, I'll make it. But I did not make it through the first semester. I said, okay, I'll wait. And then I joined the second class. So we are the second graduating class of Emperors. As I was going to Emperors, I made my living from helping chiropractors get money, collect their money. And when I opened my first clinic 5 years later in Hollywood, I knew all about billing and never had an issue with cash flow in my practice. One of the chiropractors I helped had an office in Hollywood, and when he knew that I practiced acupuncture, he said, join my clinic. And I joined him. A few years later, he moved to Beverly Hills. He offered that I'll move with him. I stayed with the clinic in Hollywood, did a few months in Beverly Hills. I didn't really like, the type of work I was doing there. So I stayed in the clinic in Hollywood. That's 1989.
Okay. We're drifting into the part of the conversation I wanted to ask you about with the AcuCare. We're coming back to the gua. We're going to get there in a little bit because I've got some questions for you about it. But one of the things I was really interested in is that you've been helping acupuncturists with insurance reimbursements. Well, it sounds like what you were doing originally was helping yourself get paid because the chiropractor that you work, look, it's not helpful to leave our own self-involvement out. If you can't take care of yourself,
I agree completely.
Yeah, then others have to take care of you.
It's not only that I said, okay, I'll just take care of myself and screw the rest of the world. It's not like that.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the great things. You learn something about taking care of yourself, like you did in this case with the insurance. The wonderful thing is you learn something about insurance. Wow, now I know something that will allow me to help other people. I can help these chiropractors. I can help them get paid. Later on, you can help acupuncturists get paid. It's wonderful how sometimes we, because of our own situation, we're forced to learn something. And we do. And now we've got a tool that others can also benefit from.
Completely. I completely understand and agree. After I graduated and opened my clinic, I joined the CAA, which stands for California Acupuncture Association. Growing up in my parents' house, my parents were always community active. My mom in WIZO, WIZO, it's a women Zionist organization, and they, take care of new immigrants and needy people, etc., etc. My father was also involved in the community, so it was natural for me to expand to the California Acupuncture Association, which is a volunteer organization made out of acupuncturists that promote the acupuncture interest. And I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s, when acupuncture was in infancy. And naturally, I migrated towards the insurance committee in the California Acupuncture Association. I became a chapter rep for the Hollywood chapter, and they attended the meetings and got into the insurance committee, and saw pretty chaos up there with the organization. You know, acupuncturists then were a lot of ex-hippies, and you know, which is going to do good to people and think good things will happen to us, and we don't want to get involved with the doctors and with the insurance companies. It was called the men. We don't want to be part of that thing.
You know what's weird is at a certain point, if you live long enough,
you are the man.
You are the man. That's right.
But at least, you know, you have the spark in you. Maybe they had the spark, but I didn't see it.
Maybe the man knew something that we didn't when we were younger.
Have you been to Burning Man?
I have not. I've not been to Burning Man. I've heard about it. It started off as a very small little beach celebration and then became what it is today, which is an incredible production, evidently.
Yes. No, I just the man. I just, you know, you burn the man there because of that. It just reminded me. You can see when I treat people with acupuncture, at least now it's much more fun because it's very free-flowing. Because, you know, it just shows that you are attentive to everything.
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
When did you figure out in your clinical practice that it was okay to have a lot of fun while you were working? Did you always have that, or was there a certain point where you realized, wow, this is fun, and actually it's okay?
I don't have a date, and I don't have I think it's a gradual thing. You feel and you contract, you expand and you contract, and then you expand and you contract less. And it's not there. That's how it is.
That makes sense. That's a very nice yin-yang answer. I just know that there was a point where I recognized that there was a lot of laughter in my clinic. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, whoa, this is a medical practice. You know, shouldn't we be a little more serious here? After all, medicine, you know.
Who's the voice?
Well, who is that voice? That voice was the voice of the doctor. I'm using air quotes, the doctor, like what I imagined a doctor is supposed to be, what I imagined medicine was supposed to be.
It could be.
And there's moments where it is. I mean, there's moments where a patient is doing something and I'm very, very concerned about them because they're harming themselves. And it's not that I'm trying to be the doctor, but it's a serious moment and I'm not going to laugh it off. I'm going to confront it as such.
But that's human. I mean, that's a concern.
Expand and contract.
When I was, I skipped one important part is in the early 80s when I came here, I told you I went to study massage, and I had a great teacher. He passed already, Barry Green. He was involved with several of the establishing the schools in the East and the West Coast. And he said something, you have to know yourself if you want to help people. You have to be in good contact with yourself. And he suggested we'll meditate. And part of the class was to meditate. Then he said, my teacher is going to be coming to LA. If you want, go and see her. And then I went to see that teacher, what they call it, guru in the Hindi, which again is a fascinating word. You know, so many people hear guru and their hair goes up, but it's a two letters. It's two words. Gu is dark and ru is light. So it's this person that moves you from dark to light. And you know, it's not that they walk in with a flashlight. They show you that you are the flashlight. Oh, flashlight is inside of you. So neglected to say this part that as I was going to acupuncture school, I lived in Los Angeles in an ashram, which was again, two words, is no, and shrama is laziness, is a place where you leave your laziness behind, which is a great place to study acupuncture and to see this, what I would call the truth. So when I'm treating people, this is who I treat. Is this, is removing the things that I'm making myself too big of a person, so I don't mean to sound like this. But I want to remind people that this treasure is inside of them. And it's not that I'm transforming or forcing or anything like this.
This episode is brought to you by Jing, the clinic management software that honestly just makes running a practice easier. Let's dive into something that's never easy, but sometimes necessary. Raising your fees. It can feel awkward, right? But here's a tip that can really help. Consider offering flexibility to your patients as you introduce the change. When patients face new fees, it's natural for them to feel uncertain or concerned. That's where flexibility can really make a difference. Offering options like a phased increase, suggesting a payment plan, or even taking a moment to talk things through can help to ease the transition. These thoughtful gestures show your patients that you're listening and care about them, which strengthens the trust you've worked so hard to build. If you're looking for more ideas on how to navigate these kinds of changes, head to frontdesk.jane.app and check out the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. One last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, you can use the code Qiological for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Just pointing us in the right direction.
Reminding.
Yeah. I want to come back to the insurance. This isn't about reminding. This is maybe about educating or maybe even, I'm going to say, shining a light. You, from a very early stage, before you were even an acupuncturist, you're realizing, wow, insurance, there's some opportunity here. I've learned something about this. That was a long time ago. Insurance has gone through many permutations since. What would you say that acupuncturists today, at this moment in time, Year of the Dragon, 2024, need to know about insurance reimbursements and working with insurance?
Well, I think the ABC is, 'cause there are people that say, I don't want to deal with it. I want to, here's a super bill, you deal with your own insurance. I don't know how it is in St. Louis, what's the coverage. But the West part,
we basically don't have it, as far as I know.
So this is a mute conversation for St. Louis. Meaning, I think that, let me answer you in another way that I'll tell you how AcuCare started, and that maybe would be AcuCare started. I told you I was involved with the acupuncture, with the California Acupuncture Association. And in California, we celebrate Acupuncture Day in February sometime. That's a day that some law passed, I'm not sure what. And it's a big party for mostly the Chinese community, but also some of the Japanese and Korean are invited, and some of the white ones are invited as well. So I went to this celebration in a big restaurant with Chinese food, and I sat next in a table of mostly Caucasian people, and there was a woman there that was a date of somebody, and she ended up, I understood she works for an insurance company, but she came as a date of one of the acupuncturists. And I approached her and I said, insurance really interests me. Can I come and talk to you about your company and acupuncture? And she said, she looked at me and said, but we don't cover acupuncture. I'm just talking about St. Louis and that story. And I said, it's okay. If you ever would, what would you look to have as a network or as an acupuncturist to cover acupuncturist? She saw I'm a nudnik, an Israeli, that doesn't give up. And she said, come to my office and we'll talk about it. So I came to her office and she spent an hour or two with me. She showed me and said, if we would ever cover acupuncture, we look for this, this, and this. She gave me all those points. And I said, okay. And I went back and I said, I'd like to do this. And I'm going to start a network of acupuncturists that will do, and I'll do this, this, and this, and this for that. And I called, I'm new in practice. I'm 4 years, 5 years in practice. I was part of the California Acupuncture Association. So I had a little bit of resources and some name. And I called, I said, okay, they probably, if they never cover, they want people in all over California. I took 2 weeks off, unpaid, because it's my thing. And I called and made appointments with, 20 acupuncturists up and down the California. Slept in 6 hotels, 6 or worse than that. During that excursion, I got to meet really nice people and be in places I've never been. I said in San Francisco, we should have at least 1 or 2 in here. We should have, and I told them about this vision, and they sign up. There was no contract. There was no fees. Maybe I charged $50 to join our network, maybe 25. I can't even remember. And 6 months later, she calls me and she said, we are ready to contract. Do you have anything? And I was frozen. And I said, yes. And those 15 were, because I did exactly what she said. I did the application and verifying their malpractice and verifying their license and verifying that they not had any claims against them. And now this network of 15 grew up to 800 and I don't know how many, 830 maybe by now, from that humble beginning, just because it felt like it's something that needs to happen. So I don't know what's happening in St. Louis, because people must have insurance, maybe they don't cover acupuncture yet, but I'm sure people in St. Louis have medical insurance, which covers chiropractic and physical therapy.
And especially here in Missouri, chiropractic is a very big thing. There's a large school here in St. Louis. And so, yes, the chiropractor lobby is big. Acupuncturists are, like in the city of St. Louis, we might have maybe 25 LACs. I mean, not many. But, look, I mean, it's this, and I'm hoping that some people here in St. Louis are maybe listening to this. And if they are, they'll know to get in touch with you to get some help on this. I'm at a point in my career where I'm looking to do less rather than more. Not that I want to do less. It's like I know what my path entails at this point, and I know what it doesn't. I've reached a point in my practice where I say no to much more than I say yes to, which I think just comes with time and age and just knowing where I want to work, knowing what I find enjoyable. So, yeah, for people that would find getting insurance payments and making all that work enjoyable, I hope they're listening to this so that they can get in touch with you.
It's not only the people. I mean, we are part 2 of a 1-2. The one is the patient. So I'm thinking about number 1, the patient, because for patients that pay for their insurance, and if their insurance covers acupuncture, in many states it does, then they should. I'm thinking about them. Some people say, okay, well, let them pay and let them get reimbursed from the insurance. Certainly they can do that, but it makes it more comfortable and more. Sometimes I nearly want to say the word healing for the person to come. I will go later if we have time to talk about Dr. Tan's work and the seasonal balance. That understanding is for somebody with a new thing to come 2 or 3 times a week. There's a reason for that. So to somebody to come 2 2-3 times a week to Shell. I don't know how much you charge, but let's say it's $150, $1,000 a month. It can be beaucoup de money. So it is a personal thing. I think that if you do, this is not about me pushing people to take insurance. It's for me just giving another opinion that it expands your possibilities, and it also helps people.
Yes. Well, what I really hear in this, Ilan, is your heart in that this is, again, in the beginning, it's something you did to help yourself out. It was also something that could help out the people that you were working with. It's always fun to help other people, you know. And then you come into the acupuncture career and you're able to use that knowledge and interest that you have to be helpful in that way. Yeah, I think so much of developing that successful practice, like we were talking about earlier, is knowing what you're here for and putting your time into that.
Yes, and your heart. You know, as I said, there was not one day I did not enjoy it. Which, you know, when I close my, you figure out I'm 70 now. So I have another, I don't know how many years. Acupuncture you can do for a long time. I do a little less acupuncture now. I focus, when I came back from Israel 4 months ago, I decided to focus on acupuncture. I spent in Israel the last 7 years. I moved back in 2016. Both my parents were pretty old. My dad passed a year and a half after I arrived, and my mom a few months before I came back from Israel to the States. So I don't feel like I want to, rent an office again and start the whole thing again. While I was in Israel, I practiced a little bit similar to you. I had one main room where I saw patients. 3 days a week, I worked with in an HMO in Israel, where I would see probably 50 to 70 people a week, about 25 to 30 people a day there, only practicing with the balance method. I was one of the most experienced acupuncturists in Israel during this time, and I taught quite a bit there as well. Now that I'm back, I want to focus more on acute care, which means, expanding California. You mentioned you had some people contact. One of the points I made for myself about our conversation. What can I offer? What can I do? Is I'll be happy to help anyone that is interested in this model to establish it, because I see it helping a lot of people. I see it helping the patients, first of all, and my members, second of all. When I started AcuCare, it's that the members are my clients, not the insurance company, which makes a huge difference how you approach things, because I want my clients to be satisfied, to make it worthwhile for them.
I think there are probably a lot of acupuncturists. I know I've been one of them who has in the past taken insurance. When I lived in Seattle, I did that. And I felt like I was at the mercy of the insurance companies because I took insurance because everybody else took insurance. I was a new practitioner. So a new practitioner starting out and saying, hey, I'm all cash only, in a city, let me put it this way. There were, at least when I left Seattle, not when I started, but when I left Seattle, there were probably more acupuncturists in my zip code and the adjoining zip code than there are in the entire state of Missouri. A lot of acupuncturists. So I think anyone in a large city with a lot of acupuncturists, if you're just starting out, like, not taking insurance is going to be a really rough go unless you've got some other means of support until you can get that thing up and running, which you can with a cash practice. It'll take time. Otherwise, you have to take insurance. And a lot of people, like me at that time, I just have to do this. And I don't really like it. And I don't really know how to do it. And I don't have any acupuncture big brother to show me and help me with this.
Yeah, Michael, what I wanted to ask you was that you said reluctantly I took insurance. Why was it? Because you were not getting paid? Because you were the patients just took advantage of you? The insurance companies took advantage of you? And when you say I took insurance, it's a very general thing. You can say you can be more precise and say I took that insurance, but I didn't take that insurance.
These are all good points. I was reluctant because I didn't like doing all the reimbursements. That was extra time.
You didn't like the billing, not the reimbursement, to create the billing.
Yeah, I didn't like that. The other piece I think was, I'm going to call it a social contagion, for lack of a better word. Everybody else I knew that was taking insurance was doing like, yeah, well, I got to take insurance. Like everybody grumbled about it. So I grumbled about it because everybody was grumbling about it. The main thing that really bothered me was that when I was taking insurance, I was not practicing in a way that felt ethical to me. I wasn't practicing in a way that I could feel proud of myself. And the reason for that was the way the insurance was set up. You could put in needles, that's 1 unit of acupuncture. If you go in and put in a few needles or do something else, you can charge a 2nd unit of acupuncture. My patients didn't always need another set of needles, but I didn't want to leave money on the table, and so it'd be like, yeah, well, this probably won't hurt them, and it will help me. It's a little rough saying, it's a little embarrassing at this moment to say in public that this is what I did. I would sometimes put needles in because I knew that I could get a little more insurance money. And I had trouble with my own ethics around that.
I completely understand, support, and if I had a head, I'll remove it in your honor because it's very, Michael, we started by saying how important it is for us to enjoy our practice. When you stop enjoying it, it doesn't matter how much money you make. So if this was an issue, then I can understand. So you could, you said the solution there. The solution is, the word that you said, I don't like to leave money on the table. When I go to a restaurant, both my kids worked as waiters as they were going to college. I give a large tip. I leave a lot of money on the table, and I like it. So it depends for what cause. If you buy your happiness by leaving more money on the table, by not taking the money that is on the table, that's another way of looking at it. It would make not the other side, to support this. You are helping your patients because the patients, some people say, I don't like to take insurance because I feel patient take advantage of me. They don't put as much into the treatment when they don't have to pay for it. It's a valid point, but it's, when you go and see a proctologist, I'm sorry to give this example, or anybody, he put as much into it. Your insurance covers for that. And I'm just saying this whole thing with insurance is it helps the patients as well, and it helps the practitioners. If you do it in the right way, there are programs that pay acupuncturists pittance, little money. It's not good for our profession, but sometimes people must join them because if they don't join, the patient will go to somebody else that does take them. So that's one way that I think insurance ruins our profession. In my opinion, we were tempted many times by companies coming to us and say, we'd like to contract with you and we'll pay. And I say, okay, what's the reimbursement? And they said the reimbursement is $40 a treatment. We say, muchas gracias. No, not here. So that takes boards too, because, you want to expand the company. And one way of expanding the company is offering more contracts. But if the contracts are against what the company needs to do, you say, thank you. We're not going to do it. I hope. There would be enough pressure from the patients on the insurance companies or on the employers to pressure the insurance company to bring the reimbursement rate higher. They make a lot of money, insurance companies. They are part of the highest paid companies. I don't want to make enemies here, but that's real.
Yeah. Well, it's a risky business. They're in the business of risk, and you want to make sure that you've got pockets deep enough to handle the risk. So there's that. Fair enough. It's a business. All businesses have to make sure that they can continue operating. So there's that. Listening to you talk about insurance, I'm realizing that you see it as in kind of the same way we see our medicine. You see it as an ecosystem. It's the patients, their welfare, the practitioner's welfare, the insurance company, their capacity to, make the money they need to make and be in business. You see it as an ecosystem. I used to see it as a much more adversarial thing. Again, probably just my limited mindset at that time. But I really get your sense of looking at how all the different parts work with each other. And look, had I known about you and what you had and being able to work through you to get insurance contractors, I might have had a different experience back then. Like I say, it's helpful to have a big brother who's looking out for you.
I agree. And I think this is, you are in what you do with your work, you helping many acupuncturists. At least you make my life much more enjoyable and expanded with the people that you interview and the way you do it and the way they do it. It is fun. I'm delighted. I'm so thankful to Rick to connect me to your website, because I did not know about it. And many people that I ask here in California don't know about it. So here I'm going to put a plug in the AcuCare thing to, how much joy it is to listen to that, because it's, and I can see, I know you maybe 2 or 3 months only, and I go back to your early episodes and I see how you evolved. And that's also, I love to see this.
I was recently on somebody else's podcast, and they were asking me how I managed to do this every week. And I was being a little glib, and I said, well, I have a mental health condition. But really what it is that it's kind of my own form of study. It's an opportunity in a world that is vastly interconnected using the internet to be able to sit down and have a conversation with somebody about some aspect of medicine that I find interesting and to hear what they have to say. I mean, I love books, but books are a one-way conversation. Yeah, the podcast has been a wonderful opportunity for me to learn more about the medicine. And then I realized, maybe a little bit like you, oh, wow, I can share these conversations and help other people. Oh, that's even better.
Yes. And that gives you, I think, when you do things for the greater, you get great, but that's a selfish, but I'm joking when I say I'm selfish and I'm lazy, because, I'm lazy because I like to do things immediately, to postpone them. I don't like to think about it. I'm selfish because what you just said is you doing things for the greater work makes you happy. And that's it's not I can see it when I said we can see it in your eyes, and I meant it, because this rejuvenates you, that you never get old with it. You can lose all your hair, you can this, but all this not a physical thing. It's a mental now.
I often have patients who don't take as good a care of themselves as they could because they're afraid of being selfish. Well, if I take that time to do this thing for myself instead of for my family, then I'm being selfish. And I will often point out to them that there's a difference between being selfish and doing appropriate self-care. That being said, that boundary is hard to know in any given moment. And it's easy to say, oh, I'm being selfish, instead of realizing, yes, this is something I do to care for myself, to strengthen myself, to enrich myself in service of me being able to take care of others.
This brings back this word that we said before, the word trust. It's fun to talk to you because every quarter there's a new subject you can expand to speak about. But you wanted to talk about the guas.
I want to talk about the gua. I do. First of all, thank you for sending me this copy of The Perfect Seasons. I've really been enjoying it. I've studied a little bit of Dr. Tan and use some. I mean, it's almost impossible not to use some balance method because sometimes it's like so
Effective.
it's so effective and it's just right there and you can test things out. I mean, I love it when someone's got a shoulder thing going on and I'm like, good, here, sit here, move your shoulder, like do this, like where is it hurts here? Or like when, like make the motion. Okay, it hurts when I do that. Oh, look at that. That's a tie-in channel. Okay. All right. Give me your foot. And they're like, what? Give me your foot. No, not that one. The other one. Yeah. And then you like work along the spleen channel a little bit, or you work along the urinary bladder channel a little bit. And, sometimes, often you'll feel something in the channel. The channel palpation piece is great. And then just kind of get in there. You know, when you got the point, you can feel it, right? And you just work it a little bit. And then you ask them to, it's like, how is it now? And they're like, what?
Yeah. And that's why you need to see the people sometimes twice or three times, every other day. And which is a big point for many people to say, I don't want this.
This is one of the reasons why community acupuncture uses it a lot, because they can charge $25 or $30, whatever they charge a visit. They can see people 3 times a week and, and do that. So
if you see insurance, you can also do that.
And you don't have to take insurance.
Yeah.
It might even be cheaper. It's like cheaper than a copay.
I told you my first practice was in Hollywood. Then 10 years later, I bought a practice in Simi Valley. My kids were growing up. I wanted them to grow up outside of Los Angeles. And I bought a house in Newbury Park, which is a suburb it's a part of Thousand Oaks. It's a suburb west of LA, just before you go down to Oxnard and Camarillo, which is the ocean. I bought a practice there, and I had a practice both in Hollywood and in Simi. I brought another partner in, then we grew it, and we opened a third practice in Beverly Hills. And then I saw the community acupuncture model, and I loved the social part of it. I loved it. And I flew up to Oregon and spent time with Lisa and her husband, and loved them. In the middle of there was a few days, maybe 3 or 4 days of a seminar. They had this old school bus, the yellow school bus that they either rented or had, and they loaded it up with kegs of beer. Not keg, but bottles of beers. And we did a tour in their town, drinking beer and seeing the different community acupuncture that those guys created. And I respect them tremendously for their work, for what they've done. So I opened a community acupuncture in Camarillo, away from my regular clinic. I didn't want it to, cannibalize my regular clinic. Made a lot of good friends from there, opening up to acupuncturists to practice there. And several acupuncturists stayed with this model not in Santa Barbara, but in the Ventura. There's a big community clinic for one of the people that studied, that practiced in that clinic. So there's so many ways to do good for people.
Having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things you can do as a healthcare practitioner. Because a robust business is the ultimate expression of vital qi. And that's the heart of our medicine. I'm Julie Bairdontlock, and I help practitioners grow nourishing, profitable, authentic businesses that embody the generative cycle of Chinese medicine. This isn't about all yang all the time. It's about expanding your own internal capacity, growing collaborative relationships with your patients for ethical patient retention, and marketing as an extension of this medicine, not a necessary evil. You already know that everything is connected in your patients' lives and bodies. The same is true for your business. When we align your systems, your schedule, your pricing, and your offerings with you, we create flow, which means more spaciousness, more impact, and more joy. When you are in the flow, fully resourced in terms of chi, time, and money, your business becomes a source of healing, not just for your patients, but for you. Let's grow something rooted, radiant, and real. Visit lifeflowconsulting.com to learn more.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things I love about it. What's the best kind of practice to have? The one you like working in.
Completely. And be open to things that can change. Be okay with it.
So anyway, I want to come back to the gua here. I think a lot of people that are listening to this, they probably know something of the basics of the Tan method. But what you've got in this book is a way of looking at the 8 gua, the trigrams, and translating that into points to treat. Now, again, I'm about 2/3 the way through the book, so I've just gotten through the portion where you're really talking about like yin yang, how the 3 gua, not the 3 gua, how the 3 lines in the gua are created in the relationship between the gua. And it's taken me a few days. I mean, I've been reading it like every day for the past 4 or 5 days, and I haven't gotten that many pages in because I keep rereading portions.
Good. I would be insulted if you do it, in 1 week and say, I got it. It took me 10 years.
Oh, yeah, no. I keep going over it because, and this is the first time I think I've done this. I've looked at the I Ching before, and I've looked at the gua. I do some Sa'am acupuncture. They also look at the gua and the relationship between the gua. But this has been like a meditation for me in the past few days of like getting a sense of how each of these trigrams, they kind of have their own energy. They kind of got their own thing going on, for lack of a better word. And I feel like I've been playing with my vision where I like look at the gua and I look at the relationship of the gua with what's across the clock from it, so to speak. You can kind of see that. And then you get a sense of the flow of how it goes around the circle, or if you have it in a straight line, which you also talk about, how those go, what's even, what's odd, what's yin, what's yang. And I'm not even trying to think about it in terms of how do I use it to treat yet. I know that comes in there because I scanned through it, but just trying to get a feel for the rhythm, for the way the qi comes up into yin and down into yang. It goes around the circle. Just getting a feel for it. It's almost like learning a new song on a guitar or learning some new vocabulary words in a language. First, you have to get each of the pieces and then see how does that piece interact with the next piece, and then how do those all work together.
We're learning how to cook and dish.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for saying this because it reminds me of a wonderful experience. My kids were young. We both, Leslie, my wife, my ex-wife, we like camping a lot. So when they were little, we'd go camping not far from a Newbury Park. You take the road down to the beach, and there would be other families that would come, and all the kids were 10, 12. We put a tent, we make a big circle. And then one night I was sitting by the campfire drinking Bacardis or something like this. Everybody was asleep, and I was looking at the fire, and that was the first time that I really understood this gua, the fire gua. And the fire gua is made from a yang line, a yin line, and a yang line, which means energy, substance, energy. That's another way of saying those. And I was sitting this, and I could see the gua. I could see it in this log that was burning in front of my eyes. I could see the substance there, which is the yin, the center line. And I could see the fire going on the top, and I could see the fire going on the side, on the bottom. And if there would be sides, I would see it on the sides. But this is so good, those guas, because they are so simple, and they can say so much. It's not 3-dimensional; it's just 2-dimensional. So you got the yin, and you got the both sides of this. That's the first time I really connected with these guas. I mean, I wrote about them, I thought about them, I used them, but to get it and then you can start seeing the mountain in those, this yang that is on top of the yin, that this thing that other people, I'm sure you have guests on your program that talks extensively about it. But that I just wanted to share. It becomes yours when you have an experience. I mean, having the experience make it yours. So sit with it. There's no. I mean, the book existed 15 years ago, and it will exist, I hope, 15 years later. So take your time to go through it. I hope that you'll have, because you are a practitioner, that you'll have an experience. I mean, dare to experience, dare to do it. I mean, I wrote about this, and I did already. I mean, I've been practicing the Dr. Tan's work for 25 years, probably. The seasonal was an addition, maybe 10 years, 15 years. And it was just as desperation that you spoke about the shoulder problem, right? You gave an example of a shoulder pain, right? So I had a good practice, and this favorite patient of mine came, and she said, I have a shoulder pain. And I just smiled to myself. My ego was, on the 10th floor, and said, I know how to treat this, no problems. Lie down.
That's right, shoulder pain. I love shoulder pain. I can make shoulder pain change.
Exactly, with my eyes closed. Bring up your foot, spleen 9. That's my go-to point for shoulder pain, because it covers the large intestine, the small intestine, the lung, and the triple warmer. I mean, it covers all the points, all the channels that have to go to the shoulder. So I put spleen 9, and I think with my back to her, I say, okay, lift your arm. And she can't lift her arm. And those are great moments, because they break my stagnation. They break my confidence. They break my ego. And I say, oh, well, the patient is screwed or I'm screwed. Let me give some more stimulations. I stimulate in 9 until
Let's needle a little harder.
and nothing happens. And that was great, because all of a sudden it froze. I said, and that's the moment where you could make a difference to yourself. And I said, okay. And then I say to myself, I've been playing with this season. Let me see what's the season now. Let me see. And then I choose. And then it indicates that I need to do liver 1, 2, 3. I think that was which you don't do those points for shoulder pain, but that's because I think it was the lung and maybe the large intestine. The liver balances both of them. So I said, I'll put liver 1, 2, 3. I put liver 1, 2, 3. Boom, the shoulder goes up. And I think she started crying. I started crying. And it was a great experience of in desperation. You find something that it forces you to do something about it. And I'm delighted that it happened.
It can be a delightful experience once we get over the now what feeling.
In English, you say, hold onto your breeches, right?
Yes.
Good time to do it.
So tell us a little bit about the seasonal treatment.
I think seasonal treatment it's a gem that comes out of Dr. Tan's work. So it's something to be practiced, understanding the Tan's work. Because if you just do seasonal treatment without comprehending, it's like eating fast food. I mean, it's something that you do, but you don't really savor, and you don't. I think, Michael, that's a question, because when I'm answering this, I feel that a treatment is not just mechanical. It's a treatment, at least for me. But I had the good fortune of going to school 40 years ago and going home with one of my classmates. And she said, look at this. And she came home, she picked up the needle box. Then we used reusable needles that time. She picked up the needle box, she shook it, and the dog came running in and laid on the floor to get a treatment. If I would not see it, I would not believe it. So, and the dog, maybe, I was giving this as an example that it's not the treatment, but it's your feeling. But I'm sure that the dog and my friend were connected, and the dog felt she was doing something good for it. And that's why it surrendered itself and laid on the floor to get the treatment. So I gave this as an example that it's not like this, but now that I'm saying this, I realize that it is about this connection. Anyhow, so people practice them. They get the book and they look at it. They say, okay, this works, but they don't have a full comprehension. Why? Because the beauty of the balance method is to expand on the principles that Dr. Tan shared with us, which goes from other masters. His way was very simple and very to the point. But he was, he comes as an acupuncturist, but also a computer man. You spend some time in computers too. So for him, things are very logical, but there is a lot of spirit in there too. That's why I loved him. I met him. Well, you're asking me a question, and I'm going to another story, so I'll answer your question. You ask, how does it work?
Maybe a better question to ask is, how do you approach it?
You approach it from the same place. Where does it hurt? Tan is known for 1, 2, 3. Have you heard that? One is, where does it hurt? Second, what balances it? Third, which points? This is very simple. 1, 2, 3. We spoke about the shoulder. My elbow hurts. Okay, so that's my elbow. Where does it hurt? It hurts around heart 3. Okay, I play a lot of golf. That's called golf. Heart. Okay, so the second thing is which points, which meridian balances the heart? And then you have those 6 groups. Let's say that you want to balance the heart with the kidney. Here's more. You can do it like this, but then it's an older person, and you take the pulse and you see there's some kidney weakness, and they pee a lot, and they are cold a lot. So you say, okay, they have a golf elbow because they wrote a lot, or because they picked up their grandkids a lot, and it hurt them. But how can I approach this and do something for the elbow and for that person? It's not the elbow that comes to see me; it's that person. So what can I do? It's let's say I would say and then it's not that what I say. Other people, I respect others to have another idea, but I say, okay, let's treat the kidney, because the kidney balances the heart. The kidney would help this person. So I can go and say, okay, I'm just going to do kidney 10, for example, which is the equivalent of heart 3. Or I can do kidney 3, which is equivalent to heart 3 opposite. You have to be flexible and take this limb and turn it around. And then it's kidney 3 that makes it. And both points would be good for this person. But then you can say, okay, how can I make it specifically for this time of the year? So this time of the year, now we just moved from winter to those 18 days that are this corridor that you move from one season to the next. Chinese medicine and acupuncture are subtle. It's not, boom, 90 days we're moving, 91 days we're moving a season. Many people see it like this. I like it. I like to caress it more, to be more sensitive to this movement. So there's 18 days between, it's called a transition time, 18 days. And you take 18 from these 90. So every season is 72 days. Sorry about all this information. I can't remember. I can't believe that my mouth just moves. I haven't touched this stuff for years or months. But so you have 72 days per season and 18 days between each season. So now we're entering this time between the winter and spring. Right? It's going to be Easter in several days, which is the celebration of spring, right? All the sales are going on. All the women that listen to this podcast will go, well, you would broadcast it in a few months. But now it's a time to go to all those Easter sales. So you got 18 days. So you look what is the best gua in this time. As far as I remember, it's gua 72. You have the book, Presley. Now, you didn't go through that yet. So let me just open this and look at how nice the Dao goes with us, because I just opened the book straight in this page. So it says transition. I opened the Chinese king, but I'll open now the king.
It's page 87.
I'm sorry. Yes, so it's not 72, it's 72, I remember correctly. And look.
Oh, yeah, the transition. Okay, I see it.
Okay. So it says, you see, it has 4 sections, March 3rd to the 20th, June 3rd to the 20th, September. It may change one day or the other because the calendar changes, but it just a day or two. Okay, so here you see 72 has 3 stars on it. You see all the possibilities, 72, 73, 75, up to 88.
Yes.
Okay. So we talked about the heart, and we said that we'll go to the kidneys, right? So look all the way to the right. It says kidney 3, 4, and 7. Those are great points to torify the kidneys.
Especially in the spring, in this particular transition of winter to spring.
In this period, yeah. Why is it? Call me for another website, another conversation, and I'll be happy to explain. Or call me personally, and I'll do this. It's like a teaser. It's like a teaser.
Exactly.
I don't mean to do it like that, but
well, like I said, I'm in the process of reading it and getting a feel for the gua. The idea of working seasonally and with the Chinese calendar in particular, and the idea as well that at the end of each season, there's this, look, we all know about the 5 phases, and one model is Earth shows up between fire and metal, but another way of looking at it is Earth is in the dead center. And with each turn of the season, things go back to Earth. And I find that to be a very, I want to say, enticing idea. There's something about it that I'm going to say just intuitively feels right. I love the sense that at the end of each season, there's a period of time you get to harvest something of the season that's now ending. You get to bring in a bit of harvest from what you've been doing in these past 72 days, and then you get to begin anew. And then at the end of that 72, a chance to consolidate and bring it in.
I'd like to give you a treat for yourself to enjoy, is to think about this not just as a plane with something in the middle. Think about it expanding, because then you just say, wow. And that's only 3 dimensions. I'm sure there's even more dimensions to it. But when I think about it, again, I say because the heart expands when you feel. It's easier to understand when you talk about a plane, like 1 dimension or 2 dimensions. It's easier to grasp it. But once you grasp it and you have a hold of it, you can really see what it is.
Becomes dimensional.
Yeah, it's like, appreciating life on Earth. I mean, here in my neighborhood, and then here in my town, and here in my country, in California and in America and on the planet. And then this is pretty big already. And then all of a sudden you realize we are this tiny little dot, this magnificent universe. I mean, how can you not stand up on the rooftop and say, hey, what a wonderful world it is? Not a world, but what a universe it is.
Amazing. There's something that you said a few minutes ago that I heard you say it, and the thought that went through my mind was, oh, that's right. I know that. I often overlook it, but I know that. And what you said was, as we were talking about treating the elbow, the golfer's elbow. And look, I make this mistake all the time because, I want to be the guy that helps people feel better. My ego likes that. I strive to keep him on a short leash, but, He likes feeling competent.
That was the shoulder. No.
Yeah. Okay, the shoulder, elbow, but whichever one it is. It's one thing to look at and go, oh, I want to help this feel better. What are the things that are involved? What are the channels involved that I need to do that? But the thing that you said, that it's like, again, I knew it, but I forgot it. And now I remember, okay, you need to choose some channels. What are the channels that are going to be best for this person in this season? Like who is walking in with the elbow pain? An older person who could use some help with their kidneys. Oh, that really enlivens it for me to think about not just the air quotes problem, not just the different channels that we can use, but who is this person and how can I benefit not just their elbow? How can I benefit them?
You know, when you talk about this, I just say, thank you for saying this, because I have this understanding that when you have a great conversation with somebody, like now, you end up feeling elevated. You don't feel drained. You feel expanded. When you give treatment, hearing all those things that you just said, a person comes in the office and they need help with their kidneys. And because you see the whole picture, you don't just see, we brought the kidney, I just am going back a little bit. People will listen to I hope would listen to this conversation and would say something doesn't make sense. We spoke about the kidney when we talk about the elbow, the golfer's elbow, not about the shoulder. The shoulder, we spoke about the spleen, but this is the golfer's elbow. So when you treat that golfer's elbow, addressing their kidney, you don't address only the elbow. You treat the person in the whole person. You see the whole person. You tell them that it's not only that you see. You tell them through the needles that you see them, and then you finish. You leave the treatment room, even after. If you can keep this clarity, you can finish the treatment room. You can finish the workday after seeing 25 people, not feeling tired at all, not feeling drained at all, but feeling elevated. That's my experience, and that's what I wish for everyone.
It's been my experience as well, and I love this. I love what you just said. You tell them through the needle that you see them. By choosing points, meridians, where you place the needle, not just, oh, I think this needle is going to help your elbow. This needle is going to help your elbow, and because I see all these other things about you, it's going to help all these other things as well. That's a very different kind of treatment. That's very, very potent. We talk about our medicine being holistic. We talk about working holistically. And yet I know there's been plenty of times in clinic, I just want to see the problem go away. In my mind, I'm saying, yeah, I'm a holistic practitioner, but in my actual actions, sometimes I haven't been. I've been very narrow in my focus. It's helpful to remember that I can do both, and I can help that elbow and I can help the person. That's a really wonderful thing to keep in the back of my mind. It's like, I know it's true, but sometimes I just forget what's true.
I think you summarize it beautifully. Thank you. I just want to add one more treasure, because that comes from the English language. We refer to this as holistic medicine, which usually people spell it with a W, but you can say the same thing, spell it with an H as the beginning. And then you put the two together. Then it becomes holistic, not complete, but sacred. And that's such a, I mean, in Hindi, you say prasad, the word prasad. Prasad is a gift from the God, is a sacred gift. So then it becomes like that, the treatment. And how can you not smile when you finish?
Exactly. Well, my friend, I think this is probably a good place to wind it down, unless you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners.
I loved interacting with you, Michael. And thank you for making it so flowing easily and enjoyably. And I hope people got something that can expand their day and their lives. If people have a question about the balance method, about the book, they can contact me. And if anybody in any other of the many states in America, I'd be delighted to help expand the insurance model there. They can call, they can write to me. I know you have a way to write them, to give them this information in the end. I enjoyed it. I loved spending time with you. Thank you.
I've enjoyed it too. I look forward to our next conversation, whenever that might be.
All right.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
This conversation on using the transformational code of the hexagrams to choose acupuncture points and treatments, it once again points out to me that the basis of acupuncture comes from a set of principles and perspectives that is foundational to Chinese thought, philosophy, and practices. The transformations of the 1 to the 2 and the 2 to the 3 and the 3 into the 10,000 things, it's at the core of pretty much any acupuncture system that I've spent some time with. As Harrington Emerson is noted as saying, as to methods, there may be a million, and then some, but principles are few. It's easy to get caught up in a method, easy to argue as well over which is better, more effective, or more correct. My suspicion is that if the principles are grasped, the methods transform from static protocol into a fluid, flexible knack for how you do your work, be it in clinic or anywhere else. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.